Before we begin, take a breath. Welcome back to the Stories of Soul channel, a place where quiet strength, unexpected kindness, and human dignity meet. If you believe that respect is louder than wealth and that love can grow in the most unlikely places, you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay till the end, because this story isn't just about a table. It's about who we become when the world tries to tell us where we belong. The bell above the diner door rang with a tired metallic sound, the kind that had been ringing there for decades. It was early evening, that strange hour when the lunch crowd had gone and the dinner rush hadn't yet arrived. The place smelled of grilled onions, coffee that had been sitting too long on the burner, and old memories soaked into the wooden booths. Daniel Carter stepped inside, wiping grease-stained hands on his faded denim jacket. He had just finished a 12-hour shift at the auto shop, knuckles sore, back stiff, soul heavier than he liked to admit. Behind him, his daughter Lily skipped in, her sneakers lighting up with each step, her laughter cutting through the quiet like sunlight through dust. "Daddy, can we sit at the window table?" she asked, pointing to the large round table near the glass, the one that looked out onto the street where cars passed like slow thoughts. Daniel hesitated for a moment. He knew that table. It was usually left open for groups or people who looked like they belonged there. People with clean hands and pressed clothes. But Lily's eyes were hopeful, and after the day he'd had, hope was not something he wanted to deny. "All right," he said softly. "Let's sit there." They slid into the booth, Lily climbing in first, placing her small backpack beside her. Daniel exhaled, the kind of breath that came from deep inside, the kind single parents learn to master. He picked up the menu, though he already knew what he could afford. Lily didn't need to know that part. Across the room, the door opened again, this time with purpose. The bell rang sharper, as if announcing someone important. Heads turned, conversations dipped. She walked in like the diner was hers. Elena Whitmore. Her heels clicked against the tiled floor, each step precise, confident. She wore a tailored cream coat, her dark hair pulled back effortlessly, not a strand out of place. A phone rested in her hand, a quiet buzz of notifications lighting the screen. Billionaire tech investor. Magazine covers. Charity galas. A woman used to rooms rearranging themselves around her presence. The waitress hurried forward with a practiced smile. "Ms. Whitmore, your usual table." Elena nodded without looking up. "Yes." The waitress froze. The window table was occupied by a man in a worn jacket and a little girl swinging her legs happily, humming to herself. The waitress leaned closer. "I'm so sorry, Ms. Whitmore. That table is taken. I can." Elena looked up now, her gaze sharp but not cruel. She followed the waitress's eyes and saw Daniel and Lily. For a moment, something unreadable crossed her face. "That's my table," Elena said calmly. Not loud, not rude, just certain. The waitress swallowed. "I understand, but they were seated first." Elena sighed, already tired. She walked over herself, heels echoing in the quiet diner. Daniel noticed the shadow fall across the table before he looked up. When he did, he saw her. He recognized her instantly. Everyone did. She smiled politely, the kind of smile perfected in boardrooms. "Excuse me," she said. "This table is usually reserved. I'd appreciate it if you could move to another booth." Lily stopped humming. She looked between the woman and her father, confusion clouding her face. Daniel felt something stir in his chest. Not anger, not fear, something steadier. He stood slowly, meeting Elena's eyes. He was tall, broader than he looked sitting down, shoulders shaped by years of lifting engines and responsibility. "We were seated here," he said quietly. "And we're staying." Elena blinked, surprised more by his tone than his words. People usually rushed to apologize. To move, to shrink. "This table is mine now," Daniel added, his voice calm, unwavering. The diner went silent. Lily tugged at his jacket. "Daddy." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's okay, sweetheart." Elena stared at him, truly looked at him for the first time. The grease under his nails. The tired eyes. The protective way he stood, like a wall built from love instead of stone. "Do you know who I am?" she asked, not threatening, just factual. "I do," Daniel replied. "But I also know who I am. And who she is." He glanced down at Lily, who smiled up at him, trusting completely. "We had a long day," he continued. This is the first place she smiled all afternoon. Something shifted. The diner's hum returned slowly. A fork clinked. Coffee poured. Elena felt a strange tightness in her throat. It annoyed her. She wasn't used to being unsettled. She looked at the empty tables behind them. Plenty of space. None by the window. I'll take another table, she said suddenly. The waitress nodded quickly, relief flooding her face. Elena turned to leave, then paused. Enjoy your meal, she said to Lily. Thank you, Lily replied brightly. Daniel sat back down, heart pounding now that the moment had passed. He hadn't planned to say any of that. It had just come out, honest and raw. Elena took her seat across the diner, but she couldn't stop looking at them. At how Daniel cut Lily's food into perfect pieces. At how he listened to her talk about school like it was the most important meeting of the day. Her phone buzzed again. She ignored it. Memories surfaced, uninvited. Long nights alone in penthouses. Meals eaten over spreadsheets. Tables always available, but never warm. When Daniel went to pay, the cashier smiled. Your bill's already taken care of. He frowned. By who? The cashier nodded toward Elena, now standing by the door. She hesitated, then walked over. I hope you don't mind, she said. Consider it an apology. Daniel shook his head. You didn't do anything wrong. Maybe not, she replied. But I learned something. They stood there, two worlds touching briefly. Thank you, he said finally. Elena nodded, then surprised herself. You're a good father. He smiled, small but genuine. I'm trying. Days passed, but the moment stayed with her. Elena found herself returning to that diner. Not for the food, for the feeling. One evening, Daniel was there again, alone this time, reading a worn book while waiting for takeout. Mind if I join you? Elena asked. He looked up, surprised, then shrugged. It's a free table. They talked, slowly, carefully, about work, about loss, about how life doesn't care about titles. Daniel spoke of his late wife, of learning to braid hair and pack lunches. Elena spoke of building empires and feeling empty at the top. No cameras, no assistants, just two souls speaking honestly. Weeks turned into months. Elena visited the auto shop one afternoon when her car broke down. Daniel fixed it, refusing extra payment. Fair work for fair pay, he said. She watched him work, hands skilled, focused, honest. You could run this place differently, she suggested once. I don't want to, he replied. I want to be present. That word echoed in her. Present. One night, after Lily's school play, Elena sat beside Daniel in the small auditorium, clapping harder than anyone. You didn't have to come, he whispered. I wanted to, she said. Lily hugged her afterward without hesitation. Months later, the diner table was empty again. Sunlight poured through the window. Elena and Daniel sat there together, Lily between them, swinging her legs. This table, Elena said softly, smiling, changed my life. Daniel chuckled. Funny. It just looked like a place to eat. Elena shook her head. No. It was a place where I was reminded that worth isn't claimed. It's lived. She looked at him, eyes shining. You made me speechless that day. He reached for Lily's hand. Sometimes, he said, the soul speaks louder than status. Outside, cars passed. Life moved on. But inside that diner, at that simple table, two lives had been rewritten. And sometimes, that's all it takes. If this story touched something in you, remember, the world doesn't decide your seat. Your soul does. Stay kind. Stay grounded. And we'll see you in the next story of Soul.